Pat, are these two legendary and longtime coaches off base with the way they support, but the way they support multiple sport athletes? That seems to be going away. They obviously embrace it. They feel like the kids come more prepared. I don't think that's the case everywhere.
I think you're probably right that it isn't. I think if you go to different schools across the city, and there's hundreds of them, you might find that's a little bit different than specific schools, especially private schools, where the numbers tend to be smaller than some of your big public schools.
Where you need kids playing multiple sports.
Sure, absolutely, I think.
It's a great educational tool.
It is.
It's part of our education.
It's great, but I think a lot of, and I don't want to belittle what you call them Olympic sports, you call them whatever, not the non-traditional, the non-traditional, sports out there, because they're important and there's a place for it, and there's a kid who might be really talented to play that. But I think that's where the coaching angle of it that I mentioned before comes in. You don't want to discourage them to try new things,
right?
But you want to make sure that they stay focused and stay interested in what you're doing. And I'm sure that causes a lot of friction. I've seen it at other schools. I've heard stories from other coaches at other schools. There's friction a lot of times. The head baseball coach doesn't always get along with the head football coach. If you go around to different.
This is a ploy right here.
I was going to say it's out.
But it's the truth. And
Understood.
I think that there's got to be some common ground met. Do I have the solution? No. But I think that discussion and communication and not trying to pull the wool over each other's eyes. Hey, Joe, I got a kid coming out for baseball. I just want you to know we want to have him. We think he can be a good baseball player. I don't want this to cause problems later on. Something like that.
The communication that we have is when there's the overlapping in the summertime, and we took second this last summer in the state tournament. But Joe he has to have those 25 days of camp in there.
Sure.
We're not letting the kids decide, I got to go to football. I don't want to hurt Mr. DeCanio's feelings, but I can't hurt. It's like, okay, Joe, we know that this person is a football player. I've got a game. He can miss this game, that game. Let him, whatever. So the communication's there. Everybody's happy. The kid's not choosing in every. It's same thing with basketball when they have the basketball in the summertime. Caleb Fields, which we mentioned earlier, he played soccer for him. I was a soccer coach when he was there. We played soccer for him, and then we went into basketball, and it went right into baseball. So there was he had to do all three things in the summertime. The communication was there. Of course, you want him but we understand where he's at because he's going to benefit from playing for Joe, and he's going to benefit in both spots. So
you make adjustments accordingly for the big picture. One of the things that also you've had to make adjustments for, I would think, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, is the media coverage of high school sports. I mentioned earlier when I graduated high school sports 24 years ago, just to get your name in the paper and the Agate page, honorable mention all conference was a big deal. Now there's multiple pages to cover to high school sports. There's websites solely dedicated. MouthpieceSports.com obviously has a huge focus on high school sports. Coach, in your 29 years, I would think we've come a long way.
Yes, to say the least. I mean, I don't know which way yet. As far as the things.
Well, has it all been good?
It's all been good.
Okay.
To me, it's all been good. I mean, as far as the media coverage, it's all been good. We have the televisions that come in to cover the basketball games and both boys and girls, and the football games that are on TV. And we were just contacted for baseball games. We play Oak Park. As far as television. The newspapers, I know when I get home that there will be the two local newspapers calling me, both of the writers going, you didn't call in. Well, I couldn't call in. But the media is there. It helps us. It helps Fenwick when you're in there. It helps us as far as the marketing also.
Pat, my question to you would be, how does it affect the student athletes? Because I think kids want to be on TV. They want to be recognized. Does that make it more difficult to coach them and manage them?
In my experience, no. But I was lucky enough to be dealt a good hand. Our team was lucky enough to be dealt a good hand. If you go back to, just to really briefly jump back to what you were asking Dave earlier, I remember when we had Corey Baghetti at Fenwick High School.
Sure.
Okay, went to Duke for a year, went to the final game of the NCAA tournament before losing to UConn, and has now been in the pros for, 6, 7, 8 years now.
At least, yeah.
And he's on the Clippers now. When Corey Baghetti declared for college, he and Quentin Richardson, another All-American at the time from Whitney Young High School in Chicago, went on CLTV, local as the station gets in Chicago, pretty upstart. Tribune Station.
Live
and that
announcement.
was the coolest thing ever because it was the first time in recent memory that I can think of that anybody actually declared on television. Now, if you get CLTV, that's great. What about ESPN? That's what I'm in for. You know, they have whole segments dedicated to that stuff now. Whole hours booked. National Letter of Intent Day. Yeah. So people's heads can get inflated. You got to kind of keep it in check. Yeah. But I think a lot of it goes back to the old rule: any publicity is good publicity, especially when you're talking about high school sports, because you want these kids to get recognized. It's fun, and again, I've been fortunate enough where I haven't seen the ugly side of it to the extent where it can get probly.
We've heard the stories, but
they're out there. They're out there. I think the line has not been crossed to the extent where I think anybody has to be worried about it to this point.
Well, we certainly keep it between the lines here on MouthpieceSports.com. I want to thank my distinguished panel from Fenwick High School and from WGN. Gentlemen, thanks for coming out to the High School Roundtable.
Thanks for having us, Bob.
Yeah.
Join us again on MouthpieceSports.com, the High School Roundtable.